Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel! And of course, before I'll proceed to the discussion itself, don't forget to like and of course, subscribe on my channel. And I'll be flattered if some of you will leave some comments regarding the topic. Okay? So we are done with the teaching approaches, strategies, methods, techniques. We also done with the how to assess and evaluate the learning of our students. And now, let's focus more on the instructional materials or IMs. So, hihimay-himayin natin on what are the things that you need to remember in preparing your IMs. Let's define first what is audiovisual aids. We all know that when we talk about IM's instructional material, one of it is the audiovisual aids. Why I give emphasis on audiovisual aids? Because it is a common tool that we are using to teach, diba, our dear students. So, let's have its definition. Definition. According to Burton, audiovisual aids are those sensory objects or images which initiate or stimulate and reinforce learning. So, it should or it can be heard as well as nakikita natin. And according to Carter, so audiovisual aids are those aids which help in completing the triangular process of learning, motivation, classification, and stimulation. So according to Carter, he believed that without visual aids, we could not attain or we could not motivate, even classify, as well as stimulate the learning of our students. We also have Edgar Dale. He said that audiovisual aids are those devices by the use of which communication of ideas between persons and groups in various teaching and training situations are helped. So according to Edgar Dale, it serves as a what? Tulay. It connects the what do we call this one lecturer as well as the audience. And also, aside from that one, it is a multisensory material. So, therefore, as what I've said earlier, hindi lang yung sense of hearing natin ang nagagamit, pati na rin yung sense of sight. Or, it depends upon your audiovisual aid if it can be touched. So, kasali na rin doon ang tactile. And lastly, we have, according to Kinder, so, audiovisual aids are anything by means of which learning process may be encouraged or carried on through the sense of hearing or sense of sight. I know that some of you might think of audiovisual aids as what? Yung Manila paper. Of course not. There are other forms of audiovisual aids wherein we will classify those things. But first, let's have these principles in the use of audiovisual aid. So, may mga principle pala tayong kailangang i-follow. Ano-ano kaya itong mga principle na ito? So, let's have number 1, the principle of preparation. When we talk about preparation, paghahanda. So, therefore, what are the things that you need to do? As far as possible, locally available material should be used in the preparation of an aid. For example, your topic is all about plants or leaf na lang, mga dahon. So therefore, what is available sa palibot, that will be the one nga imuhang gamiton. Why? It talks more on contextualizing your lesson and being resourceful. The teacher should receive rather some training in the preparation of aids. So, your training is of course with your 4 years here in our institution. And of course, I know in the future you will have some, what do we call this one? You will volunteer to the public schools wherein that will really serve as your training. And of course, formal trainings may be conducted. It is through seminar, workshop, and the like. The teachers themselves should prepare some of the aids. So as a teacher, always remember that we should be the one who will prepare our materials, most especially the audiovisual aids. Imagine, nagamit kang audiovisual aids and hindi ikaw yung gumawa, tapos hindi mo mabasa yung nakasulat doon. Di ba nakakahiya? So that is why, exert some effort. So therefore, kailangan kayo ang gumawa ng audiovisual aids. Students may be associated in the preparation of aids. So, it could be, but hindi lang talaga mga estudyante ang gagawa ng aids. It should be supervised by the teacher. And we are done with the principles of preparation. So always remember to, in addition to principles of preparation, always remember that you need to be Boy Scout, Girl Scout once you step inside the classroom. Why? Because you need to always be ready. Yes, because there are some problems that you might encounter in the entire process of teaching and learning, and you need to be prepared. Next, the principle of selection. Dapat marunong kayong mamili kahit hindi kayo pinili. Teaching aids prove effective, blah 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 blah. Pakibasa na lang. First, they should suit the age level, grade level, and other characteristics of the learners. Always remember that in selecting your materials, it should be developmentally appropriate. That is one of the features of the K-12 curriculum. Therefore, it should coincide with the grade level, with the age bracket of the students. For example, your topic is about mga gamit sa bahay. Tapos nagdala ka ng kutsilyo, tapos yung tinuturuan mo grade 1. 'Di ba? So, baka paglaruan nila yung kutsilyo. O hindi kaya, the words that you are using in your audiovisual aids are not appropriate to the students. Masyadong highfalutin words yung mga ginamit mo. So, maiintindihan kaya nila? Of course, hindi. Next, they should have a specific educational value besides being interesting and motivating. So always remember that in teaching high school as well as in elementary, you need to incorporate values. So, yes, it depends upon you on how you are going to incorporate values in your audiovisual aids. Next, they should be true representatives of real things. So, you may use realia. Yes, you may use that one, yung mga real objects talaga. And also, you may use authentic pictures, not the animated one. Of course, to make a connection between the classroom as well as the real world. Next, they should help in the realization of the desired learning objectives. Always remember that in selecting your materials especially, it should really coincide with your objectives. Huwag yang kakalimutan. Because, for example, in your objectives, you stated there that the students will make a graph using the cartolina. Then, your materials is wala kang cartolina. Iba yung ginamit mo. So, always remember to always see to it that there is what? Coherence or consistency of your objectives as well as the materials that you will use. Next, the principle of proper presentation. We are done with preparation, selection, and now let's move to presentation. So teachers should carefully visualize the use of teaching aids before their actual. You know what, let me share you this. Before, honestly speaking, while preparing my materials or instructional material, I really need to see to it or I tend to visualize ano kaya magiging itsura nito, paano ko kaya ito gagamitin sa classroom. Because in that way, we could be able to know if appropriate ba talaga siya. If interesting ba talaga siya. If it will really help your students or pupils learn. Next, they should fully acquaint themselves with the end manipulation of the aids should be to be shown in the classroom. Of course, never use an audiovisual aid or an instructional material that you are not familiar with. So therefore, part of your preparation is of course to familiar the instructional material that you will use. Adequate care should be taken to handle an aid in such a way as no damage is done to it. For example, you will use a microscope. So to my ED 1 subject, so unfortunately walang face to face, no, kaya hindi tayo nakagamit ng microscope. Okay, how to properly handle the microscope. So as a teacher, binaro lang natin yung microscope. So therefore, we should properly handle it with always care. Dapat na to ampingan. Wa na gani kagi ampingan. Di ba? And the aid should displayed properly so that all students are able to see it, observe it, and derive maximum benefit out of it. So always remember that if you are using an instructional material, dapat kitang-kita ng mga bata mula sa harapan hanggang sa pinakadulo ng kanilang upuan. Next, we have the principle of response. So this principle demands that teachers guide the students to respond actively to the audiovisual stimuli so that they derive the maximum benefit of learning. You know what? It is useless even though you prepared, you properly selected your material, and even properly presented it if your students couldn't respond with your audio-visual aid. So dapat there is interaction between the students, the teacher, as well as the visual aids. And of course, the principle of physical control. The principle of physical control relates to the arrangement of keeping aids safely and also to facilitate their lending to teachers for use. So of course, always remember that after you use the audiovisual aid, you know what? Part of the criteria of making audiovisual aid, it should be durable. So dapat hindi talaga ito masisira. So therefore, as what I've said, you need to take care of your audiovisual aid or instructional material because dapat hindi mo lang ngayon dapat yan napagkinabangan, kundi napagkinabangan mo, kikinabangan mo rin yan sa susunod o sa mga susunod na taon. So we have the essential qualities of audiovisual aids. It should be accurate, relevant, realistic, comprehensible, simple, not expensive, available, preparation, big enough, location, evaluation, and appropriate. So checklist niyo yan. Okay, next. So, ito talaga yung pinaka-importante when we talk about audiovisual aids or even instructional materials. We have the Edgar Dale's cone of experience. So, as what you can see, it is a what? Okay, let me draw. It is a triangle. Okay? So, this triangle is what? Moving upward. So, it starts from concrete to abstract. Therefore, habang tumataas yung pyramid kasing cone, habang tumataas yung cone, yung triangle, yung pyramid, is what? It also, what? More abstract na siya. So, therefore, yung nasa baba, we have this purposeful experiences. This is more concrete. So, isa-isayin natin. So, actually, we have 3 levels dito. We have the inactive. Ito yung inactive. Sorry. Ito yung iconic at ito yung symbolic. Always remember that in inactive, there is what? More on concrete, more on experiencing it. When we talk about iconic, it is more on pictures. When we talk about symbolic, more on text ito. More on abstract, more on ideas na. So let's start with direct purposeful experiences. The best example of this one is when you let your students visit the zoo. So that is direct purposeful experience because na-experience nila, nakita nila mismo yung mga animals doon. Okay, we also have contrived experiences. So, ang pinagkaiba lang nitong contrived experiences, for example, instead na pumunta kayo sa zoo, is yung zoo na lang mismo yung dinala mo. Not literal na mga hayop yung dinala mo. You make use of what? Models. Models na mga hayop, yung mga not figurine, basta yung mga toy na hayop. Yun yung ginamit mo. So, at least na-experience pa rin nila kahit hindi real life. Next, dramatized experience, more on drama, alam niyo na yan, role-playing. We also have demonstration, showing how things is done. We also have study trip. We also have exhibits. So, sir, bakit yung sinabi mo kanina yung pag-visit sa zoo? It belongs also to study trip. Okay, usually ang study trip, it is more on what? It could be in the form of walking gallery, ganon. May mga activity kasi tayong ginagawa inside the classroom wherein we coined it as study trip. Next, exhibits. Also including also to study trip is when you visit museums, ganon. We also have exhibits, educational television, motion pictures, of course recording. Dito, visual symbols na lang, yung nakikita na lang, yung mga text na lang ito. And of course, verbal symbols, more on pagsasalita na lang. So therefore, as what you could really see, that what? If you are teaching elementary pupils, therefore, you need to make use of what? Direct, purposeful experiences. That is why as a teacher, we need to let the students experience things. For example, instead of just showing how to plant trees, you need to let your students plant their own trees. Yun. Okay na ba? No questions na sa Edgar Dale's Cone of Experience. Napaka-importante talaga nito. When we talk about instructional materials. Next. And now let's proceed here in our classification of teaching aids. So we have visual aids. When we talk about visual aids, nakikita ng mata, di ba? So we have chalkboard. You know what chalkboard? It is one of the oldest yet effective, they say, instructional aid used in the classroom. So, what are the values of a chalkboard? I know some of you might say, "Kasi man yung mag-chalk-chalk naman punta ni may kuan." So, let's read. It helps in capturing interest and attention of the students. So therefore, as a teacher, I am not saying that it is a prerequisite, but it is actually good if you have a good penmanship, nice kagagi, because it will really hook your students. Next, it can be used again and again. Of course, chalkboard, magagamit mo, erase lang, sulat again. Students learn the technique of drawing, diagram. You know what they could do? I think a lot of things with chalkboard instead not just writing text to it, but also we could also make use of it wherein we could draw diagrams. Napay uban mag-drawing og now anime ban pa. So it is cheap and saves time and money. So it breaks verbal monotony. So of course you could really save if you are to use chalkboard. Okay, next. So how to use chalkboard? So certain cautions should be observed in the use. Of course, you know what? Medyo mayroong mga dustless na chalk, but you know what? Huwag mo sanang palagi ng paggamit ng chalkboard because you know what? Marami ng cases wherein it really affects the health of the teacher. Not only the teacher but also the students. So, make use. Nilagay talaga dito. Legible. Hold. Uniform and straight. May mga teacher kasi na kung sumulat sa board is parang aakyat ng bundok. So, iwasan natin yan. So, it should be keep clean before and after the lesson. So, as a teacher, kapag nagturo ka na sa field, so, dapat in the morning malinis yung chalkboard mo, and before you leave the classroom malinis rin dapat ito. And of course, to those who will be teaching in high school or even in grade school na may mga floating teachers, so make use or make sure talaga na to erase the writings on the board, kasi nakakahiya naman kapag naabutan ka pa ng ibang teacher. Okay, it should be free from distracting material. Okay? So that is why, if you are up to use chalkboard, wag sana kayong gumamit ng double-sided tape. Nakakasira talaga ito ng chalkboard. So it should be keep and hand both white and colored chalks. So I'm really fond of using colored chalks, but hindi mo naman gagawin na rainbow na yung sulat mo. So you need to use colored chalks that are what in order for you to highlight certain terms or even to underline things. So you should start from top left hand. So left to right talaga siya. Hindi ka pwedeng mag-start from right to left. So the view of the student should not be obstructed by the teacher while writing on the chalkboard. So medyo mahirap talaga ito, no, lalo na sa mga anong tawag dito, hindi sanay magsulat sa board. So always remember, I think 45 degrees talaga dapat yon. Hindi ka dapat nakatalikod sa mga estudyante. Dapat you are facing 45 degrees. So medyo paslan ka. Next, of course, summary development should be brief and continuous. So always remember to not write all on the board, kasi lain po kayo dapat kayo sulat sa board, di ba? Okay? So you know what? One of the things that I have learned in my entire journey when I was studying is, of course, the proper way of erasing the writings on the board. It should be from top to bottom. Pataas, baba, taas, baba. Okay? Kana dapat siya. Illustration should be rightly labeled. We also have charts. So types of charts. We have 3 charts. Okay, alam niyo na yan. Flow charts, time charts, issues charts, pictorial charts. So, what is the help of this chart? So, it really helps us, most especially to those who are up to teach science. So, it will really help us to showcase the different organ systems. Okay? And also, to those who are or who will teach English, you could really make use of this one, most especially in showing relationships. We also have graphs. I know you are all familiar with graph. Bar graph, circle or pie graph, line graph, so pictorial graph. We also have diagram. For example of this one is Venn diagram. So familiar na mo ana. We also have models. By the way, models, these are what? So other definition of models is, it is the, what do we call this one? Some sort of relic, not really a relic, but the miniature of things. For example, the model of the Eiffel Tower. So you're up to discuss the different landmarks of the world. So your topic is about, also you included the Eiffel Tower. So instead of bringing the Eiffel Tower, so tumadala nimo to, you will just bring model. And we also have flannel graph and epidemioscope. And now, so we are done with visual aids. Kapag visual aids, nakikita lang ng mata. How about the audio aids? So, hindi talaga natin, we cannot prevent that there are some students who are what? Hindi nila gusto yung nakikita nila. Gusto lang nila yung naririnig nila. So, we have radio. So, you know what? May mga educational ano pa tawag? Shows, not really shows, but may educational of course, with the use of radio, most especially right now that we are having this pandemic, di ba? That adsorbed to the use of radio in discussing topics. We also have tape recorder. So alam nyo ba, noon, when we were in elementary, we have this tape recorder talaga. It was in our subject, English. So it really helps us how we are going to pronounce properly the mentioned words. We also have films. You know what? I really love films, reviewing films, because in this way you could critically analyze the film or the movie. So I know some of your teachers are using this one. So that is actually good. And films are under audiovisual kasi nakikita at naririnig natin yung mga dialogue nila. We also have television. You know what? DepEd naman. They have this DepEd TV wherein ginagamit talaga nila. Wherein it really what? Discusses the topics of the students. And aside from that one, meron rin tayong batibot. Nakakatulong talaga ito. We also have activity aids, pang-apat. Ano ba itong mga activity aids? So, when we talk about audiovisual or mga instructional materials or audiovisual aids, hindi lang ito nakasenter more on Manila paper, ganun. But it also includes activity aids. So, these activity aids goes beyond sulat-sulat. So, for example, in science subject, you could use what? Aquarium. Diba? You could also use the nature study garden. Or, what do we call this one? Miniature garden. So, in short, audiovisual aids or instructional materials doesn't end only with the use of the traditional ones. Like for example, Manila paper, cartolina, chalkboard, but it goes beyond. It depends upon your topic on how you're going to motivate your students. Laging tatandaan that if you will use instructional material, it should really help you to achieve your objectives. Always remember that the best instructional material that a classroom could have is the teacher. Kahit kailanman, hindi mapapalitan ng IMs ang teacher. Maraming salamat. Again, don't forget to like and subscribe on my channel and leave a comment. Ma-flatter jud ko kung naay mag-comment. Thank you so much. And that's all. God bless on your lesson planning journey. And this is your Poging instructor, Mark Jen M. Martinez. Bye.